Hi, today we're going to make flu tea. Now, viruses and bacteria are sensitive to heat, so one of the ways that the body fights off an infection is to mount a fever. So what the flu tea does is it just helps to boost your fever a little bit in order to support those natural healing processes. Now, keep in mind, fever isn't safe for everyone. So for young children, for instance, who can mount a fever too easily, or for some people who have medical conditions where becoming overheated can be problematic, we wouldn't recommend using the flu tea in that sort of scenario. So this is really just for people who are generally well, who just need a little bit of assistance to get their temperature up a bit. Now, before you try flu tea, you should always take your temperature first. If it's already over 38 degrees Celsius, and that's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, your body's already doing its job, so there's no need to actually bring the flu tea in. It's only if your temperature is really hovering more around the 37 degree mark and you're just not mounting enough of a fever to actually burn off those viruses and bacteria. If your temperature ever goes over 39 degrees Celsius or over 102 Fahrenheit, that's when we generally recommend that you seek some medical assistance. So again, this is just for people who are generally well and just who need a little bit of an oomph to get their temperature up to fight off those infections. So what we're going to need today. Okay, so to make the flu tea, we need some ginger, either fresh ginger or ground ginger. We need some chilies, either fresh chilies or ground chilies. Some turmeric if you have it. Now, not everyone will have turmeric, but if you do, it's a great addition because it's got some great anti-inflammatory properties. So either some fresh turmeric or again, some powdered turmeric. Now, turmeric is interesting. It is a great anti-inflammatory, but it has a couple of characteristics that you need to keep in mind when you're making the flu tea if you're going to use the turmeric. The first thing is that turmeric's, the active ingredients in it, the curcuminoids, are not particularly well absorbed into the body. So they need a little bit of fat, they're fat soluble. So we're gonna pop a little bit of coconut oil into this flu tea, just in order to enhance the absorption of the curcuminoids from the turmeric. The other thing about turmeric is that it does tend to get out of the body fairly quickly. So we're gonna add a little bit of black pepper as well. The piperine in the black pepper actually slows the metabolism of the turmeric, so that'll keep it in the system longer. So if you are going to use the turmeric in this recipe, that's this orange one here, you will need a little bit of black pepper and a little bit of oil as well. If you decide to leave that out, you don't need the black pepper or the oil, but let's do it with everything. So in addition to the turmeric and the ginger and the chili, we've also got some garlic. Now we're going to start off with the garlic, because garlic actually needs to develop for a little while. So what we're going to do is we're going to crush the garlic, and what that's going to do is break the structures in the garlic and release an enzyme called alliinase. And that alliinase will activate an ingredient in the garlic called alliin and convert it to the substance that we want. This is a component called allicin, and that's the one that's got the great antimicrobial properties. So before we start anything else, we're going to start off by crushing the garlic. Now, for this recipe, I've got 4 cloves of garlic. I'm going to use about 2 centimetres of ginger root, about 1 centimetre of turmeric root, and a fresh chilli. Probably not the whole chilli, that might make it a little bit too spicy. We'll also need some water, obviously, and because we're using the turmeric, the black pepper and the oil. So let's start with the garlic. I've got a great little garlic press here. So what I'm going to do, I've already peeled this garlic. I'm just going to give it a good crush and just let that alliinase release and start converting the alliin to the allicin. So again, this is the antimicrobial component that we want in the garlic. Now, over time, the allicin will actually start to degrade and form other compounds. Those other compounds are quite beneficial for health as well. But in the flu tea, this is the bit we really want. So that's 2 cloves of garlic. These are nice big chunky ones. Depending on how spicy you like it, you can use more or less garlic. I tend to go for more. As you can see, this is a nice big clove, this one. Okay. And that's just developing in there now. And one more. And I've got garlic all over the bench, but that's all right. All right. So that's the garlic and that's developing nicely. I've got 3 cups of filtered water in this pot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding the other ingredients now. So I'll start with the turmeric. Now, with turmeric or garlic, you can actually just peel it by using a spoon. Now, what I do with my ginger and my chilies and my turmeric is that I keep them in the freezer. So I find actually I don't even need to particularly peel this. So I'm not actually going to bother today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in about 1 centimetre of the turmeric root. So I'm just going to start that off over the sink just to get the knobbly bit off the end. And then I'm just going to grate into the water about 1 centimetre of the fresh turmeric. Now again, you could use powdered turmeric if you want to, if that's all you've got, but I like the fresh if I've actually got it. So that's about 1 centimetre of the turmeric. I'll do the same thing with some ginger now, a little bit more ginger, maybe about 2 centimetres. So again, just over the pot. While these are frozen, they actually grate really well, so you just need a really good microplane or something like that. So we've got some anti-inflammatory effects from the turmeric and also from the ginger. So this is going in there. Beautiful. And then I'll also pop some chilli in there. So again, I'm just grating that. That one's got a bit soft because I've had it out for a little while. I might just grab one that's a little bit more frozen. There we go. Okay. So again, you can use the chili powder if that's all you've got at home, but if you've got fresh, then that's useful as well. Now, again, sticking them in the freezer just makes it really useful. You can sort of buy this stuff when it's available and then use it when you need to. Now remember I said a little bit of black pepper because we've got the turmeric in there, so just a little ground, doesn't need a lot. And that's pretty much everything that needs to go on the stove at the moment. So we're just going to take this over to the stove. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this on the heat now. So that garlic is still developing over there. We're just going to get this simmering away for about 5 minutes and then we'll come back to this shortly. Okay, and now just a little bit of oil just to help the curcuminoids in the turmeric to be absorbed a bit better because as I mentioned earlier, they're fat soluble. So just a little teaspoon of that. And we'll just give it a little stir through. And then I'm going to remove this from the heat. Okay, so we're going to head over here. Okay, so now remember you're dealing with turmeric here, which will stain everything, so just be really cautious now. So now we bring it together. So I've made 3 cups. I'm going to have 1 cup now, and because when you're tending to have a flu tea, it's because you're not feeling well. It's better to make a big batch at a time, and then I'm just going to pop the rest in the thermos, and that I can have that a little bit later. So what I want to do, and you'll see the colour as this comes out, I'm just going to strain a bit into here, and then I'm going to put the rest in the thermos for later. I'm just going to pour the rest of that into the thermos. Beautiful. All right, so I'm glad I did that in the sink. So as you can see, it's very yellow because of the turmeric. So I'm just going to pop that aside. And we're just going to finish off this one here. So what we want to put in here now is some lemon juice. So the juice of half a lemon. Now, the other thing I do with lemons when I've got a few of them is I just freeze them. So I juice up a whole heap of lemons and I freeze them in ice cube trays. So I'm just going to pop the juice of half a lemon in there. Or if I had some lemon ice cubes, I'd just pop those in as well. And a little bit of honey. Now, it depends on what sort of honey you've got. Ideally, a manuka or a raw honey. This is just an organic honey that I had. And that can just stir into there. All right, so that is our flu tea. As I said, quite warming. Let's just taste it. Yeah, that's really nice and spicy. So take your cup of flu tea back to bed with you, rug yourself up, that should get your temperature up, and then you've got a little bit left in your thermos for another couple of cups later. So that was flu tea. Coming up in the next episode, we're going to make a turmeric panna cotta. So we're going to use the turmeric again, but we're actually going to make a dessert this time and add a little bit of gelatin. So something great for your joints.